Dawn of War.
Peggy 8.
Right. We're just gonna watch it all the way through. I'm not gonna say anything the first time, and then we're gonna break it down. All right.
Peggy 18.
We have fought the enemies of humanity across 1,000 worlds. No respite, no remorse, no mercy. We are the wrath of the Emperor, his angels of death. But the Imperium lies broken, its armies scattered and reeling. Our foes rise to drag us down, and the galaxy has been torn asunder. On the world of Kronos, we make our stand. We are the Blood Ravens. There is no victory to claim here. Only vengeance to enact. Whilst even one of us lives, we fight.
Even one of us.
For only in death does duty end.
Okay, there's some positives, there's some negatives. Positives, I like the fact, if we go back, base building. You know, we can see here clearly, base building's happening. We can see build menu, Mega Boss Bunker, Boys Fort, Beast Snagger Hut, Scrap Heap, Mech Boy Workshop. You can build cover, which is interesting. Wire Banner, Mech Gun, Bomb Squig Pen, Gorkanaut. You can build a Mech Boy, Utility Infantry, Repair Structure and Vehicles, effective at short range. Boys Fort, produces infantry units, provides research, has a mounted weapon. So, you know, I think the game looks like it's got base building, which is very good. And dropped the plane came in and dropped the bunker. I thought that was the drop the building. That was very, very cool. I'm not sure how I feel. If you look down the bottom here, we've got unit cards. That'll be interesting to see how that works.
Forward, you dogs, to victory!
Talzun, thank you, Super Jet Man. We'll buy anything with Blood Ravens. Psychic thievery is what the world needs. Gable Angelos for president. I have a second home in subsector Aurelia. Well, there's definitely Blood Ravens in this. We get a little look at them, you know, here. We can see intercessors here, Blade Guard veterans moving up here, drop pod coming down here. Yeah, like that looks good. That looks good. Looks like there's some AdMech stuff going on here as well. Yeah. I'd like to imagine the Blood Ravens stole the Primaris tech and it wasn't given just because... Yeah, I mean, they definitely should have stolen it. Yeah, like Gilliman turns up to give them Primaris and they've already got them. And he's like, where do you get those guys from? And he's like, found them. What do you mean found them? Well, Dark Angels had just mind-wiped them, so they didn't know anything anyway. So we just took them and gave them some red armor and told them they were Blood Ravens and... Yeah, they believed us. Which would be an absolutely Blood Raven thing to do, like just get someone who's freshly mind wiped. So yeah, you know, this base building seems to be back, and that seems to be a big positive. I am not sold on two things. One thing, really. I don't like the art style they've gone with. I noticed it a bit with the animation as well. And you really see it with the picture here. It looks kind of cartoony. Yeah, Ishmael, thank you for the 14 months, man. It's also bright, to be honest, kind of huggy by 40k standards. Yeah, exactly. X-Force, baby. Yeah, it's very bright and cartoony. So I especially noticed it. I think the Necrons they've got right. You know, in some areas, like that's good. That's good. I think the orcs look very cartoony. Do you know what I mean? The orc looks very cartoony. You know.
Rise to drag us down.
Also, is he even pulling that trigger? 1 minute.
Our foes rise to drag.
Orc's not even pulling the trigger.
Our foes rise to drag.
He didn't even pull the trigger. He just believes. I guess he's an orc. He can just believe it shoots. He believes it is. Yeah. I think seriously, I think they've done the Marines look good.
Drag us down, and the galaxy has been.
But you know, the Necron face there looks a bit. You see what I mean? The Necron face looks a little cartoony. I think it's not everywhere. You know, some of it I really noticed it with the Admech face there. It looks like, honestly, it looks like mobile game graphics. That's what's worried me slightly. And the big thing that stood out to me is it looks like Dawn of War. Obviously, it looks like Dawn of War 3. It looks like they've done the art style for Dawn of War 3. Look at the way the Marines shoot their guns, and look at the way the assault intercessors jump into combat. Watch. Do you know what I mean? They just it looks it's one step below backflipping Terminators from Dawn of War 3. Do you know what I mean? The way the units move and shoot, the way the unit, it feels like Dawn of War 3. You see what I mean? Like look at the way things are moving and shooting. Do you know what I mean? I want to be excited for it. But I'm nervous about the art style for both for some of the characters, for some of this stuff. It almost looks and feels like they're playing on a Warhammer 40k board. Look at this. This is what jumped out to me. Look at the terrain they're playing on. Not necessarily the buildings and stuff, but the surface, for lack of a better term, the surface, the flat bit, right? The flat bit. Does that not basically look like one of the cardboard battle mats that GW sells? You're like classified games, new stuff, and just complain. No. I'm not complaining about it at all, Talzun. I'm really, I do want to like it, but just because something is new doesn't mean it's better. And just because something is old doesn't mean it's better. Whether it's old or new, up, down, left, right, or spinning in circles, there is just good and bad. Like, I'll openly admit I don't think all old models look good. I think there's a lot of old models that look dog shit, and that, you know, I know that I like old models because of nostalgia reasons. But, you know, some of the new models that GW comes up with, look at the Space Wolves, you know, look at the Emperor's Children, you know, they're beautiful sculpts. So please don't think I'm criticizing because it's new. I'm not. I want to be clear, I'm not totally against it. I like some of it. I'm 50-50 on it. I'm not unsold on the art style. I could learn to love the art style. It's just slightly cartoony. I think that's what's thrown me off. I feel like the game is slightly cartoony. And it's not that I think the Dawn of War trailer is necessarily, like, bad. I think the issue is, for me, the gameplay animation that I saw or in the Dawn of War 4 trailer reminded me very much of Dawn of War 3. So look how the Marines move in Dawn of War 3. It's quite bouncy and cartoony, and the way they shoot is, it looks a bit like a mobile game. Do you know what I mean? Like, and there's not that there's not blood and gore in it. There's still blood and gore in it, but, you know, look at how the Marines and stuff move and shoot there. And if we come over to Dawn of War 4 trailer, you know, look at how the Marines move and shoot there. It's kind of similar. You know what I mean? You can. It's not as bad, but it's similar. You know, the way things are moving is quite cartoony. I don't think it's quite as bad. I do think that things are definitely better in Dawn of War 4, but there's an element that, you know, do you know what I mean? There's kind of like an element of it. And then let's come over to, so by the way, definitely recommend Idrid Casts. Idrid Casts, very, very good channel. You can see I'm subscribed. I do enjoy watching this guy's videos. So this is Dawn of War 2, for example. And if we sort of, the graphics aren't obviously going to be as good.
Or something.
I don't know what it is. The way the units move.
Those guys are able to finish their cap there.
Maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but
and we've seen MiGs diving.
I want to see some of the Space Marines. The way the Space Marines move around, there's a real sense of weight. Do you know what I mean? The Marines aren't bouncing around. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Marines aren't bouncing around. Like, they're just sort of, you can feel the weight. Do you know what I mean? You can feel the weight behind them. Like, you know, Scouts are moving quite lithe, whereas Marines are moving quite, you know, relatively slowly.
And some sodding drops a tactical Marine model. We have some Devastators also for handsome sodding.
It's a little you know, like, there's a bit of weight, you know, there's a bit of weight behind them. But I would say, you know, upon reviewing the Dawn of War 2 footage, I would say that I feel Dawn of War 4 definitely feels closer to this. What we saw feels closer to this than it does to Dawn of War 3. Dawn of War 3 is exceptionally cartoony. Dawn of War 4 feels not quite as good as this, but you look at the way the Assault Marines lumber around. Do you know what I mean?
And there is the Artificer armor. Doesn't quite level up handsome sodding.
You know, so it's not that I'm saying it's bad. I just feel like, I don't know. Maybe it's just the Primaris aesthetic. You know, maybe Primaris just look kind of smooth and Firstborn just look a lot grittier.
Scary plasma gun.
I think it's the way the guns fire as well, though. If you notice the guns,
you need to manually target each shot from this thing.
You can see them firing shots, but
471 to 27. Use it to fire.
Let's have a look. Are they going to do like a jump? That would be kind of cool.
That's exactly what's happening.
You know, like, with the guns aren't firing like cartoony bullets.
Wipes out the.
I honestly think this looks better than Dawn of War 4. I honestly think this looks. I don't know, man. Maybe. I will say this right now. It's a little cartoony, but it doesn't look terrible. That's going to be my assessment of the Dawn of War 4 trailer. It looks fine. But we'll wait and see. It's not put me off the game. The trailer has not put me off the game. It's just not got me fucking hard for the game. It would have been nice if it looked better than Dawn of War 2. But we'll see. Dawn of War 2 was... Here's the thing, got to remember though. Dawn of War 2 was greatly lambasted when it came out. We all look upon it favorably now. But when Dawn of War 2 was announced, everyone shat all over it because they got rid of the base building. Apparently there's Gaza in Dawn of War 4. Shall we have a
Okay,
look?
Dawn of War 4 is on the agenda today. I had the opportunity to play a pre-alpha version of this game, courtesy of Plyon, Deep Silver, and King Art Studios.
So we've got
big
Invictus
thank you
lawsuits
to Des for
and
including
stuff.
me in this early access look and for sponsoring this video. We're going to be breaking down the Space Marine roster,
Oh, look,
explaining
there's
many of the
God.
game's core mechanics as I understand them, and giving my general thoughts and impressions on the limited slice I have played so far. To set the stage, this was a campaign mission scenario battle where Captain Cyrus and the Blood Ravens drop into an active
I think
war
they're
zone
trying to get rid of the
support
Legion
Imperial
Rust.
Guard regiment that is about to be overrun by orcs. And after slaughtering the initial waves, you must construct a base and headquarters while defending against increasingly
They never
larger
show the
and
Legion
heavier
Rust in the
enemy
new video
incursions,
games. They only
striking
ever
out
use
to
the
take
Rogal
down
Dawn.
encampments, and finally, Gorgut's elite bodyguards and HQ. All the while, the Greenskins are building...
One
finally,
thing, if I may criticize, it looks like the guardsmen are shooting bullets. Look. It looks like the guardsmen... That multi-laser looks like it's firing bullets. The guardsmen look like they're firing
larger
bullets.
and heavier enemy incursions, striking out to take down encampments, and finally, Gorgut's elite bodyguards and HQ. All the while, the Greenskins are building mighty Gorkanaut walkers comparable to an Imperial Knight. They're freaking huge. It will cause all kinds of havoc if you don't build into heavy armor-piercing troops like the Repulsor Executioner tank with the heavy laser configuration. At one point in the mission,
But it is
the Imperial Guard
not
and
final
AdMech
quality.
forces team up alongside an Imperial Knight to help you push
Phase
the
2 of
Greenskins'
Rust.
base,
That's true,
while a
Airborne. Good
Necron
point.
Invasion force led
Still-
by a monolith,
still calls
big
for hope.
floaty pyramid, and canoptic stalkers strike from behind, shooting all kinds of Gauss flares into the rear. Seeing the Necron tier slowly shambling to war under that sickly green
It looks
glow of
alright,
molten
the game,
dudes
you
during
know.
their implacable advance was pretty goddamn cool. The mission gets really
Things are
hectic,
still a
battles
little
slowly built into
cartoony.
some very large engagements with a lot of troops and explosions happening all over the screen. Definitely a lot going on. Unfortunately, this build was considered pre-alpha, so they didn't want us recording footage from our play session yet because stability, graphical fidelity, and performance weren't all there yet. They warned us of that beforehand, that was to be expected, but it does mean you guys are looking at B-roll footage that was sent to me because I was not allowed to record my own gameplay session yet, and that will make it a bit difficult to show you some of the things I'm talking about. Hopefully, the next reveal will allow us to actually capture our own gameplay. But yeah, to quickly recap yesterday, the Space Marines, Greenskins, AdMech,
looks okay.
and Necrons will be the starting 4 playable races
No, that looks
in
better.
Dawn of War 4, and the plan
It
is
looks
for
better zoomed
asymmetry
out.
between factions to be
They've taken the Mordian glory approach to painting. It looks better zoomed out.
pushed substantially. Each faction is going to have their own gameplay mechanics, stratagems, and potentially resources that are completely unique to them, or at least are built, maintained, and procured in different ways. Space Marines have a bunch of mechanics unique to them, of course, from the way they can rapid deploy via drop pod to their reserve system, and how they defend.
I'm feeling a lot more
territory.
positive about
For
it,
each
seeing-
of these races, the devs are trying to push that power fantasy and special tabletop.
I'm feeling
and
a lot more
elements
positive about
by
this,
expressing them in
seeing the
gameplay
other
terms.
gameplay bits.
Space Marines are going to be much more powerful than the orcs on a per model basis. You can feel that immediately when your intercessors with stalker bolt rifles chunk through a shoot-a-boy squad. But naturally, the Greenskins will field many more troops than you possibly can, and once you get into their higher tier units, the playing field is going to even somewhat. The Mega Knobs, Death Dreads, and Gorkanauts can really mess you up. They pack a punch. Base building has returned.
Feels like it's
in
gonna
Dawn
be
of War
much more
4,
zoomed out.
As has requisition, power, and population cap, which is quite a bit higher in this game than it is in DAO 1 or DAO 2. I had like a massive repulsor tank, 2 powerful Redemptor dreadnoughts, each with their own weapon loadout, a bunch of TAC Marines and assault squads, some Blade Guard vets and Terminators, and I don't think I even broke 150 pop cap, while the overall pop cap is 300. So maybe too early to read too much into that, but I found it interesting.
I'm okay with
there
that.
There were little boxes of power and
bigger battles. I'm okay with that.
Map to give you a quick boost if you just ran a unit over them, but rec nodes and power nodes are still going to be your main conflict points, and you want to capture them and build them up. And they can be fortified by bunkers, listening posts, turrets, and all manner of flavorful toys from each faction. Obviously, the more you put into a resource node, the more you're going to get out of it, and the easier it will be to defend it. As far as I could tell, Space Marines do not have servitors or builders at all. You just build what you want once you have enough rec and power to do so.
Drop her down.
That may change, and it may be different for other races, but in the trailer yesterday when it showed Greenskin's base building, I didn't see any builders for them either. So my guess is that just isn't a mechanic in Dawn of War 4. I'll be curious to see how that impacts raiders and skirmish troops, because an important component of early bike rushes and Flayed One's deep strikes and that sort of thing in Dawn of War 1 is to overwhelm an opponent early by dealing economic damage and killing off enemy villagers or builders. Those units don't necessarily kill buildings quickly, but they can quickly snipe.
What do we think about that? So there's definitely base building. There's definitely base building, but there's no builder unit. So it's like a Command and Conquer. Because at first you're going to be like, oh, I don't like to get no builders, but they'll go, just wait. It's like Command and Conquer. In Command and Conquer, you have no builder. You did in Generals, but in old school Command and Conquer, in most Command and Conquer games, you didn't have a builder. You just, yeah. So it's fine. It's as long as it's base building, it's fine. Builders are okay, but not having builders and just building buildings from like a construction yard or equivalent thereof, it's fine. Yeah. Okay. I'm alright with it.
Type out a infantry unit,
yeah, it's fine.
Or they can kill villagers, builders, that sort of thing, and that puts a lot of a pressure on your opponent. So without villagers being a unit, I'm curious if that tactic will be available in other ways. Hopefully it will be. Now, base building has very much returned. I found its interactions with the reinforcement and reserve system of the Space Marines to be very dynamic. Tarantula turrets and listening posts are kind of built the old-fashioned way. You plop them down on a point, and once they're done building, they can help mow down enemies and defend a particular strategic point. But hammerfall bunkers are a new toy that can be dropped anywhere instantaneously, and they can slice through.
Let me go back, I missed a bit there.
Mow down enemies and defend to be very dynamic. Tarantula turrets and listening posts are kind of built the old-fashioned way. You plop them down on a point, and once they're done building, they can help mow down enemies and defend a particular strategic point. But hammerfall bunkers are a new toy that can be dropped anywhere instantaneously, and they can slice through low-tier orc aggression squads like a hot knife through butter. Very helpful tool because your army is small and very elite, and you're encouraged to keep it small because you actually get less resources the more troops you put into your army. You instead want to focus on veterancy. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit.
That might be
you can't cover enough ground.
That might be a Marine thing rather than a specifically an Orc thing. I think that would be kind of shit if that was a thing for all factions.
On the map without constantly backtracking to defend against incursions coming from many different angles. The way you get around this is by dropping a hammerfall bunker and a couple drop pods from your reserves into a raid to deal with those backcapping threats while your main force pushes on to take out the bigger encampments. So if some Squighog boys and some Mega Knobs come in from another flank that you're not ready to defend yet, if you have stuff in reserve in your drop pods, you can drop them in to defend a point and also get a hammerfall bunker to help reinforce. And I will say, seeing Terminators deep strike in to mow down an onrushing horde with an assault cannon, while Stormbolter drop pod turrets cut through a swarm, was exactly the power fantasy I wanted to see for an elite Space Marine company. Game's going to be rated mature, there's all kinds of gore and dismemberment, it's very satisfying even in these early stages, and the weapons really do have some punch to them. Seeing stuff get jibbed doesn't really get old. There is also an in-depth cover system, similar to the DAO 2 version, but less jank and easier to interface with. Bunkers and sandbags and craters are scattered throughout the map, and animations where units will appropriately hunker down into them are all present. Certain active abilities, like Captain Cyrus's turbo penetrator rounds, can pierce cover, and grenades, missile barrages, and overloaded plasma shots can outright ignore it, lobbing over the top to jib the hunkered down inhabitants on the other side. Grenades don't appear to be a skill shot And I think they happen naturally at appropriate ranges as well, perhaps on some kind of internal cooldown. But they're also an active ability that can be unit targeted, not point targeted, which means you click a group of enemy shooter boys when they're in range, and a grenade will land in the middle of their squad, so you don't have to aim it in the same way that you did in DAO 2.
The Orc, it really feels, a bit uncanny. I don't know. I like it, generally speaking, but it does feel a little uncanny seeing just 40k units just plopped in. I don't know. Like, it's not, there's no designs that, I mean, Gorguts might be an exception, but, you know, down to the squigs, there's no designs which are unique to the game. Does that make sense? That's what kind of threw me off. That's what's kind of thrown me off about the game, I think. There's no unit designs which are just unique to the game. I'm not saying they need unique units, but like, it looks like the units have just been lifted straight from the tabletop game and plopped into this game. Whereas I feel like in previous Dawn of War games, they have had guardsmen, but they haven't just had like the tabletop guardsmen plopped in. The guardsmen have had their own design. The Leman Russ have had, it's obviously a Leman Russ, but it's got, the developers have put more stuff onto it to make it look not just like a Warhammer model. Does that make sense? Yeah, it feels a little uncanny.
Grenades, missile barrages, and overloaded plasma shots can outright ignore it, lobbing over the top to
like that's, yeah, like that is,
and overloaded plasma shots can outright ignore it, lobbing over
like that is just like the Orc Boy from the new Orc Boy squad.
The top to jib the hunker down.
They're the bomb squigs, but they're exactly the same as the ones that you get in with the tank busters
on the other side. Grenades
Gorguts is unique,
skill shot,
but that Beast Snagger is exactly from
perhaps on
the game, from the tabletop game.
But they're also an active ability that can be unit targeted. Not
don't really like that mech is exactly lifted from the mech. Yeah.
You click a group of enemy shooter boys when they're in range, and a grenade will land in the middle of the squad.
It feels a little uncanny.
Aim it in the same way that you did in DAO 2.
I'm not saying it looks bad. I like what the game. You know, I'm actually okay. You know, I've changed my opinion.
Honestly,
I don't think it looks like Dawn of War 3. I think it doesn't look like Zombie Marines. It doesn't look like Dawn of War 3. It looks good. It all looks good. I'm getting a sense that it is good, but it's interesting that there's like, there's nothing outside of the G. There's no adaptation outside of the GW scope.
Away from that here. That
GW's got a tight rein on this game. Very, very tight rein on this game.
May not be realistic or even necessary. Time will tell. In addition, I do believe terrain is destructible, although to what extent, I'm not exactly sure. It's not a mechanic I really interacted with all that much beyond noticing it was there, but at least in my matches, when I shot overloaded plasma into a bunker, everything inside would jib and explode, but I'm not sure if the bunker itself would be like completely destroyed or anything. I don't think they were. There is an additional resource which I believe every faction will share called command points that are generated by engaging in combat, building and producing units, and holding resource nodes. They grant access to stratagems over time, which for the orcs looked like it'll be Wah or some kind of enrage, get your choppas out, melee steroid type thing, and rocks, of course, to drop a meteor or 17 on your opponent's heads. For the Space Marines, we had access to 3 stratagems. Battle Honors gave a unit a big XP boost, essentially promoting them.
Yeah. They're trying to make it. This is. I don't know. This isn't Dawn of War 4. Okay, it's going to sound kind of crazy. This isn't a Dawn of War game. It's like a flayed one. It's where, and that doesn't mean it's bad. Let me just be clear. It doesn't mean it's bad. But hear me out. This, to me, feels less and less like a Dawn of War game. And it feels like it's wearing the skin of Dawn of War, like a flayed one. This feels like it is very much trying to be a gateway to the tabletop game. The concept of things, it doesn't feel like it's that. It feels like they're trying. This is the tabletop game adapted to a not completely, of course, not completely. It's not I Go You Go or anything like that. But there's definitely there's a reason why the units all look like they've been lifted right out of the boxes and plopped into the game. There's a reason why they're using things like command points and stratagems, things which we the ones that we never had in Dawn of War. Don't get me wrong, but terms which are very familiar to people who play the 40k tabletop game. Yeah, I think this is. I don't think this is particularly meant to be a Dawn of War game. It's going to be a video game that is very closely tied to the tabletop game. It's not set in the same. It's not a video game set in the Warhammer 40k universe. It's a video game set in the tabletop game universe. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's a Warhammer game. It's a Warhammer tabletop game, not a Warhammer universe game. Time will tell whether, a good game is a good game. A good game is a good game, but this definitely feels like there's some GW has got a tight leash on this.
To a higher rank, presumably increasing their HP and damage, which means veterancy is returning as a mechanic. I got my Plasma Redemptor Dreadnought and Terminators to gold chevrons multiple times throughout multiple battles, and just like the unit cards, I think the XP system is very similar to Total War as well. It goes 3 bronze, 3 silver, then 3 gold chevrons, and I think 3 gold chevrons was level max. The second stratagem was
cool.
the
That's
Thunderhawk Cluster Bomb stratagem. Could be dropped in a line to devastate an advancing horde in a choke point, and Orbital Bombardment could be called in as the final stratagem for a hefty price of command points, which is essentially a sustained volley of randomized orbital lasers that could explode Gorkonauts and scour an entire area of life. Probably not going to be quite as satisfying as the one in Dow 2. If you remember when the beams came down there, you'd see a unit levitate, suspended in midair for like 8-10 seconds before they inevitably exploded.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite like that here, but I mean, you could jib an entire horde, and it was very satisfying when it landed flush, and I did kill a Gorkonaut on multiple occasions using the orbital laser. So, let's talk the Space Marine unit roster and building recruitment, how all that works. From the Chapel Barracks, you have Infiltrators, which are essentially your scout equivalent now, but they're Primaris Marines. Intercessors, Assault Squad.
I could almost hear the narrator not giving a shit.
Packs, Thunderhammer and Plasma Pistol or Power Sword and Hand Flamer upgrades on them. And then we had Eliminators and the Invictor Tactical Warsuit, which is essentially a light Primaris Walker. From the Sanctum, you could get Blade Guard Veterans, Eradicators with Meltas.
Let's go back and listen to this.
And Plasma Pistol or Power Squad, Scout equivalent now, but they're Primaris Marines. Intercessors, Assault Squad that start on foot but can upgrade to jump packs. Thunderhammer and Plasma Pistol or Power Sword and Hand Flamer upgrades on them. And then we had Eliminators and the Invictor Tactical Warsuit, which is essentially a light Primaris Walker. From the Sanctum, you could get Blade Guard Veterans, Eradicators with Meltas, Terminators, and the Redemptor Dreadnought. The Termies and Dreads especially felt awesome. They absolutely ripped and teared units and split them into chunks when they got hold of them. Frankly, I think the Plasma Dread upgrade is probably the highlight of the entire roster for me. It was super fun to kill stuff with. And from the Armory, you can make Outriders, the Gladiator Reaper Grav Tank, and the Mighty Repulsor Executioner, each with multiple weapon loadouts and upgrades.
Interesting.
Now, each of these buildings, the Sanctum,
No
Chaff
firstborn.
Bears, what have you.
No
They
firstborn.
Each had separate tech to unlock access to higher tier units and general upgrades for those recruited from that same building. And the Strategium was essentially the overarching tech building that could improve reinforcement times via drop pod, improve storm bolters on drop pods, and buff retreat effectiveness. Oh yeah, retreat is definitely a thing here. So keeping units alive and functional will likely be more important in DAO 4 than it was in at least DAO 3. I'd argue that's going to be very important. That
Company of
preserving models
Heroes.
and taking good engagements should be a core component.
Company of
Because when
Heroes
Space Marine
style.
squads feel like dispensable fodder and can be thrown willy-nilly into the meat grinder to be mowed down over and over, I feel like that is a problem. I feel like you're lacking some of the power fantasy and lore elements that make 40k what it is.
Yeah.
They don't feel like Space Marines at that point. But reinforcements happen on the battlefield like in DAO 1. You don't need to be back at base to replenish models in a squad like in DAO 2.
Okay.
There are some issues I have with that, honestly. I realize it's an important feature in the original Dawn of War and Definitive Edition of that game, but seeing a Space Marine model just appear out of thin air while his squad is in combat doesn't fully sit right with me. I think it's flavorful for some factions, but there should always be an animation or mechanic that makes that appearance logical. You know what I mean? Like a Necron model crawling out of the earth, or a Terminator model deep striking in via teleport, coming down in drop pods, that sort of thing.
Yeah, fair.
When it just materialize out of thin air, especially with an elite army like Space Marines, I'm not sure that feels quite right. The drop pod system is really good. I like it a lot.
They need
Yeah, you have to be
the
near a
old
friendly
game had a
building or drop
teleporter.
pod
Dawn of War
to
1 had a
reinforce a unit and replace
Dawn of
lost
War 1 had
models.
this teleporter.
I do understand though, I say that without a full picture on
animation.
the balancing or kill time for units at the moment. And that might just be one of those sacrifices on the altar of realism the devs have to make to keep the flow of combat in a good state and as a pure balanced decision. Higher tier units and weapons might be powerful enough that if you had to run back to base every single time you lost
That's
a single
cool.
model,
Did you see that, guys?
might be powerful enough that if you
Look, field ordnance batteries. Looks like the guard are basically fully fleshed out. So hopefully we'll see guard as a faction. I'd love it if they had guard. It looks like they're going to be what the first DLC faction.
you had to run back to base every single time you lost a single model, you never get anywhere during a push, and in that situation, of course, it may be a necessary sacrifice. You don't want multiplayer games dragging on to an hour and a half, because every time you lose an intercessor model, you're just like, oh, I gotta run back to base now. That would suck. Again, this is how it worked in DAO 1. Units, even Space Marines, would materialize out of thin air when reinforcing a squad. People love DAO 1. I've never seen anyone complain about it in DAO 1, so maybe nobody really cares. As for the Terminators, I'd like to see some melee variants as well. I did not see any in this build. I think their only loadouts were Heavy Flamer, Assault Cannon, and the default Storm Bolters, but Lightning Claws and Thunderhammer Shield combo will hopefully be in as well. Now, one of the biggest features being added here is a new sync animation system that doesn't just work for kills, but for general combat between squads. So, for example, if a Dreadnought is fighting a group of Storm Boys, the entire squad of Greenskins will be ducking for cover. The Plasma Dread will like shoot at one while a boy model dives for cover, and then stomp on
Yeah, I
another one.
noticed that.
Or if a squad of Blade Guard veterans engages knobs in melee, they will all be parrying and entering sync duels with one another. So it makes the fights look way more dynamic when multiple units are engaged in melee, because they're all doing something. Every model unit is interacting and behaving much more naturally than they otherwise would. In previous games, yeah, they might like swing their rifle, but they would just do that same prefab animation 10, 15 times in a row until a sync kill happens. Now, even when a sync kill isn't occurring, they're still going to be locked into matched combat animations, which I think a lot of people are really going to
I think
enjoy
that's a good
looking
thing.
at from a visual
I think that's a
cinematic
good thing for
perspective.
sure.
You can zoom in real far here with the camera, like Total War style close-ups, cinematic shot style close, which should be awesome if they have even halfway decent replay functionality. Basically, I could do similar things with highlights and sync kill animation edits like I do in Total War battle reports on my channel right now, which has me very excited. And the camera seems to be fully controllable. Changing angles and controlling it with WASD, can zoom in really far, get in hyper close, and keyboard functionality with rebinds and such all seems like it will be there on day one. Personally, I find the combat here to be much more readable than Dawn of War 1 is, and that was after only playing like 10
Dawn of War
minutes.
1
The
combat's
additional
like,
customizable
what the
hover
fuck's going
health bars
on?
and unit icons floating over the top of each unit, and the Total War style unit cards the UI in general.
Yeah, I don't know if I like the little.
To me,
I don't know if I like the symbols.
Has so far.
I don't know if I like the symbols hanging over
units. It's a lot easier to keep track of your army and what's happening on the battlefield.
Like it's good for like gameplay purposes, but bad for immersion purposes.
I imagine that's not going to be how everyone feels on the topic. For me personally, I felt like battles were very readable and easy to understand pretty much right from the jump. Overall, I found it pretty easy to pick up and play. Fairly intuitive across the board. It had a functional UI, quick and easily accessible tooltips and explanations of what units are and what their upgrades and weapon selections do. So for example, if I wanted to upgrade to a heavy laser on the repulsor tank, it would tell me, hey, this is a very high damage tank and a very high damage weapon loadout against single armored targets. So it's great for quickly dealing with the Gorkanauts or Death Dreads.
They just need to sort out the guard weapons look like they're firing bullets.
On the right side of my screen.
The guard weapons look like they're firing bullets. That's fucking with my Tai Chi, honestly. But other than that, I'm alright. I feel more positive towards Dawn of War. Yeah. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Redfield, 32, Jurgens, Miasma, Try Again, Bragg, RJ, Scorpion, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Nicholas Walsh, John Stubbs, Guardian, Varney, Sword, Fish Trombone, Picklock the Forged. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.